Hey there, welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, where we're expanding the natural family planning conversation. I'm your host, Ellen Holloway. This week, I am joined by my husband, Kurt, and we're talking about finding joy in NFP. I don't really think Kurt needs all that much more of an introduction because we'll probably do that within the episode.
Sounds good.
So let's start by talking a little bit about our NFP journey.
How about you start?
Okay. Well, I would say our journey with NFP started when we were engaged and we were at our Engaged Encounter retreat. And the segment on natural family planning was, I want to say, maybe 15 minutes of the whole weekend. And while we had two different couples who ran the weekend, it was actually the priest who talked about NFP. And the story that we kind of got was, hey guys, this is a thing that the Catholic Church teaches, and yeah, it's pretty good. And well, there's some information in your packet if you want more knowledge about it.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate for how it went. I think there was a little more hand waving, like, you guys are just gonna do what you're gonna do, I think. But
yeah, it was definitely obvious to us that one, the two presenting couples who were running the retreat probably didn't use NFP. And two, that particular priest didn't really care that much about it. It wasn't an important teaching to him. And so that made us just kind of think, well, I guess this just isn't all that important. We just don't need to worry about this one. We've got plenty on our plate.
Yeah, we did end up talking about it at least a little bit, though.
Yeah, I think it was something that was definitely on my heart personally, but we also, we were spending a ton of money on the wedding, and it was like, well, this isn't something that's required and it's going to cost money, and we just don't have a lot of that right now. So we'll just not important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that led to me going to my GP and getting on birth control, which was awful. When I got on birth control, the first period that I had while on birth control was probably about 10 times worse than any cramping or period pain I had ever had prior. And my libido plummeted. And my mood suffered. I was just like, I felt nothing. Like I was very blah. And it was probably, I think I was only on birth control for 2 months.
That sounds about right.
And at that point, it killed me every single day that I took one of those pills. I knew it was wrong. I knew we weren't supposed to be doing it, but I didn't really know what the other option was. I didn't even know what NFP entailed. Like I didn't know how it even worked or what the efficacy rates were or why it cost so much to learn NFP. We had no knowledge of that. But I just told Kurt one morning or maybe afternoon, I have no idea. I was like, I can't do this anymore. We've got to figure it out. And so I got off birth control and had a rough month getting off. Well, it was much more than a month kind of getting off of birth control, but that first month was probably the hardest. And we basically just abstained for like 4 months.
Yeah, we were definitely, we didn't get a
formal instruction.
Yeah, we didn't get any formal instruction. We just read off of a PDF online, and I think there was something in there that said basically like, hey, you need to have X amount of months of charting before anything is like, before you get a some sort of a good enough basis of your chart to actually be able to do anything, which, you know, as being an instructor now, that's not really the case.
That's not the case, guys.
So, you know, we went into it as just, well, this is what we have to do. So NFP means a lot of abstaining, and we did a lot of abstaining.
Yeah. And we've stressed this before on the podcast, but please do not get a PDF off of the internet or order a book off of Amazon and try to learn NFP by yourself. You need an instructor, because not only did the PDF that we read have pretty much incorrect information, it also didn't give me the confidence in charting my own mucus sign, and it didn't give us the confidence in the rules. We didn't really understand them. We didn't understand how exactly female fertility works and the entire ovulation cycle. We didn't really get that part. We only got the super basics from this, you know, document that we read about it. And yeah, we were not comfortable with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that we didn't have, you know, an unexpected child, because we didn't. We followed the rules as they were presented, and you know, it worked for us. It wasn't until you got pregnant with our first kid. We don't have a second one. I don't know why. Anyway, so it wasn't until that pregnancy that we actually started we got formal instruction on it, and then we got more instruction to become instructors. So it wasn't really until you were actually pregnant and not cycling that we figured this whole thing out, really.
Right. Like, I remember actually, because once we started learning about NFP, we actually realized how cool it was. And even just from this PDF that didn't give us all that much information, we knew it was really cool and really awesome, and that we wanted to promote it more and, get involved in the NFP community. And we actually ended up at a meeting at our parish on kind of how to promote NFP more within our parish. And I remember me, a user of NFP, I was asked, well, what method do you use? And I had no idea, because I had just read off of a PDF. I thought that was the only type of natural family planning. And as we know, there are many, many different methods. Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about our struggles, but Kurt, what would you say has been our biggest struggle using natural family planning?
Using? I think it would be my biggest struggle personally was getting into it and having the I want to say courage, but courage isn't the right word. Confidence. Having the confidence in the method and all that stuff to actually say yes to doing this, because I didn't know anything about it. It was just like, oh, that's that Catholic thing that doesn't work, which it does, guys. And so basically that was my biggest struggle getting into it. Using NFP, we all struggle with abstinence. It's not it's not easy or anything, but I wouldn't call it the biggest struggle that I had with NFP. I don't think.
I think for me, my biggest struggle was just navigating postpartum. And Kurt and I became instructors while I was pregnant and finished our training in the first 2 months of our daughter's life. So we chose a very interesting time to become instructors. And we were so busy becoming instructors, I just didn't feel like I had the time or energy to talk to my personal instructor about understanding navigating the postpartum time. And so it was extremely stressful. And I mean, we, again, kind of basically just abstained for a very long amount of time because I just couldn't figure it out. And it was just too stressful at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the flip side, what's been, Kurt, what's been your favorite fruit of using NFP in our marriage?
I mean, it has to be just the fact that our marriage has grown, I guess, in a way that if we had not been, it wouldn't have. I feel like we love each other more intensely. I don't know, intensely is the right word.
I like intensely.
I have a greater appreciation for you, I think. My idea of sex when we came into the marriage was basically just like you get married and then everything that the secular world says about sex is okay and just go for it and have as much as you can ever possible, blah blah blah. And it's not fulfilling. And I mean our sex life showed it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And coming into a post-baby era, quote unquote, I don't know, there's much more love, joy, just, I don't know. It's just happier.
Yeah. I had almost the opposite relationship with sex when we got married, where you were like, okay, now everything's good to go. We're going to have as much sex as possible. And, everything the secular world says is like, is okay now.
Yeah, you got to catch up with all that sex you didn't have before marriage.
Yeah.
I'm a good Catholic.
While you were on that side of the boat, I was on the other side trying to navigate the 180-degree flip from sex is terrible and bad and you should never, ever, ever do it to, hey, you're married now.
So go do it.
So go do it. But just like, don't really talk about it. And so I was navigating this, trying to figure this out while also on hormonal birth control and having literally zero libido, guys. Literally zero. And and I'll probably get into this in a future episode, I had vaginismus and had no idea. So there was a lot of things that we were, juggling at the time. And anyway, that's a bunch of struggles. But my favorite fruit has just been learning so much, one, about my body, about Kurt's body, about how they work together, and about the beauty of the marital act, of sex, and why it is so important in marriage. And I still am healing my relationship with sex. But this journey of natural family planning, which promotes deep and constant communication with your spouse, can help so much in healing a difficult relationship with sex, which both of us had a bad relationship with it. We just kind of had separate, different relationships. And over the past couple of years, we have just really been able to, mend those broken ideas of what a good sex life should be and what sex should look like within our marriage. All right. So our topic today is joy. So let's talk about some ways that we've found joy using natural family planning.
Well, I mean, really, it allowed us to have sex and actually like it. So that was joy for me.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just trying to think ones that aren't the story about Emma.
Because that's my story. Yeah. That's what I'm going to tell.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Well, so what we were alluding to, our daughter, Emma, she's 15 months old now. I don't even know how old she is. So Kurt and I, in December of 2018, we had started to become a lot more comfortable with using NFP. We were still abstaining way more than we needed to because, again, we had not yet had formal training or formal instruction. And so we really still weren't fully comfortable with using NFP, but we had become a lot more comfortable. And we had successfully been avoiding pregnancy. And at the time, we had a plan. We were going to maybe start trying in like April or May of the following year. And we were at Christmas Eve Mass. And I mean, usually there's always a lot of babies at Mass. Like that's very common, especially at like Christmas Mass. But there was like 10 times more babies than there normally are. And they were all staring at us. Like literally staring at us.
I mean, she's exaggerating very much. I think they were just kind of there cooing and stuff, and she was crying, going, "I want one."
Anyway, it was an extremely emotional Mass. And during the entire time that I was at the Mass, I was just feeling so deeply in my heart that, wow, it's time. We shouldn't wait until April or May. Like we need to start our family now. And I actually remember my mom leaning over to me, the baby who was playing baby Jesus in the nativity play was 3 months old. And my mom leaned over to me and she was like, "Hey," and this was jokingly, by the way. She said, "Hey."
Or was it?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't jokingly. Ellen, if you get pregnant right now, your baby would be that old next year and could play baby Jesus in the nativity play. And when she said that to me, I just felt that like God was telling me that. It wasn't my mom, it was God. And we came out of that Mass and we just both had very similar experiences. Mine maybe a little bit more tearful than Kurt's. But we just knew it was absolutely time to start our family. And funny enough, cycle-wise, it was literally time if we were going to attempt that cycle. And had we been using hormonal birth control, we wouldn't have our daughter, because we may have realized, oh, hey, it's time for us to start our family. But it would have taken a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, more than that for my body to heal from using hormonal birth control, that we wouldn't have ended up having a baby when we did. And we wouldn't have been able to just absolutely say yes to God in the moment that we both really felt called to start our family. And it was just so God driven. And our daughter is such an amazing blessing and such a joy in our lives. And I'm just so thankful that I did use natural family planning and that we were able to constantly discern whether or not it was time to start our family and whether or not it was time to try to achieve a pregnancy. And it just brings me such joy that we have our daughter.
She's cute.
So joy doesn't necessarily mean happy, smiling, loving every single moment. So Kurt, what would you say are times when using NFP has still been a joy because we can joyfully say yes to the Lord, but it hasn't always been happy, smiling, and perfect?
Yeah, I so when we first started using it, the 4 or whatever months of abstinence that ended up occurring afterwards, because we were scared and afraid and blah blah blah. You know, I was not in a good place at all. I was angry, resentful. I don't know. It was not a great time in our marriage.
And note that this is the first 6 months of our marriage.
Yeah,
we had a really rough first 6 months.
It was not a honeymoon phase there. Yeah, I mean, it was like, why can't this just be easier? Why can't we just, you know, do what the world does? Why this? Why that? And once I learned about it more, read some books on it, just, you know, learned what it meant to use NFP and what it meant to contracept, and finding out that in order to love you well, it's the only way I could.
Right. That free, total, faithful, and fruitful love is not possible with contraception. And I remember having the same exact thought of, you know, why can't this just be easier? Why can't I just contracept? Why can't I just use birth control? Why does learning NFP have to be so hard? Why does learning NFP have to be so expensive? Why aren't there more support groups out there? Why aren't more people talking about NFP? And, you know, some of the answers to that question, God told me, well, that's because you're supposed to go talk about it, Ellen. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. But, you know, that joyful yes, it doesn't have to be a, you know, skipping down the street happy. That's not what joy means. Joy is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. We can find joy in struggle. We can find joy in difficult times. And joy is that yes to God. It's saying, I understand that I can learn from this situation. I understand that I can grow from this situation, and that this situation is going to lead me closer to you, God. And I choose joy right now because I want to grow closer to you, God. And I want to grow closer to my spouse. And I want to have the best relationship that I can. So I choose joy right now, even though I am sad, even though I am angry, even though I am mad at something.
Okay, what ideas or tips do you have for someone struggling to find joy with NFP, Kurt?
I mean, I think that's a very broad question. If somebody's struggling in the way that I struggled first in our marriage, like basically, you know, you just don't feel like it's fair, I guess. I'd encourage you to just see the difference between having a relationship where the point of sex is the pleasure in it, right? And it's not about your spouse. It's not about your love of your spouse. It's about just pure pleasure. And then you think about a union with your spouse in which you get to share with them fully your love, your just you. And that's what NFP gives you. And while sometimes it might be hard, it is something that can bring joy in so many ways.
I love what you said there of just really sitting with the difference of a relationship where it's all about me versus a relationship where it's all about what can I do for my spouse.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, in a Catholic marriage, we are called to die to ourselves and give ourselves fully to the other. And I am yours and you are mine. It's not I want to have sex right now because that's what I want to do. It's I love you. Will you say I do to me again?
Yeah. I think something on a little bit more practical, emotional is if you're struggling to say yes to God and to choose joy. And again, joy is not, I'm smiling all the time, I'm super happy. Joy is choosing to learn from the situation. Joy is choosing to grow closer to God and your spouse in the situation. Find some community if you're struggling to find that joy. Please find another couple that you can talk to, and particularly find the person of the same sex. So if you're a woman, find another woman who is practicing NFP and talk with them. And if you're a man, find another man, because there is something so special about just female to female and male to male conversations when you're struggling with something like using natural family planning.
Cool.
And learn more about it. Read books that you can find. Listen to this podcast. Listen to other podcasts that are about hormones and cycle health and things like that. Because I think something that happened with Kurt and I is as we learned more about how amazingly God designed both of our human bodies and our shared fertility, we just totally fell in love with it. And just how beautiful it is and how well designed it is completely outweighs the struggles that we are sometimes faced with natural family planning. Well, thank you so much, Kurt, for having this conversation.
You're welcome.
You probably didn't really feel like you had a choice.
I mean, I could have found somebody else for you to have this conversation with.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. As you can tell, we like each other.
If you say so.
If you haven't followed us on Instagram yet, please go find @chartingtowardintimacy. Reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Are you struggling to find joy? What are some other ways that you have found joy in using natural family planning? And remember that this is part 3 of our 4-part Advent series. Next week, we are going to be joined by a really great couple. Spoiler alert, they are the godparents of our daughter. And they're going to be talking about how love grows with NFP. Until next time.